You all for having me to come and speak. It's a pleasure and a joy to talk about someone who has made a difference in America and a difference for his people as well. And that is the late legendary Jackie Robinson, who was a cousin of mine. And the thing is that Jackie, he never forgot where he came from, and he never forgot that if you break barriers, you got to continue to make opportunities available for others. Because you see, Jackie, he was a pioneer of human dignity, a champion for civil rights. He stood up for what he believed in, and he learned so much from his mother, who was born here. His mother, Mally McGriff Robinson, and my grandmother were two brothers' children. That's how we're related on the McGriff side. And one thing about Jackie, he not only just broke the color barrier in Major League Baseball, but he did it during becoming a superstar during the post-war era of World War II. And he made a big difference in becoming a part of the great legacy, as I mentioned, being a champion of human dignity and civil rights, and happened during one of the most turbulent periods in our country during civil rights and trying to get equality for all. He had an impeccable character and faith in God and prayer that he learned from his mother. And that's why God blessed him to do the things he did. And so we're going to learn how you may come from a small town, a rural area, a place nobody's ever heard of. And I know that because when I remember growing up, even though I was born in New York, my parents lived up there for years until they retired. When we would come down south to visit my grandparents and family members, I would hear the other little cousins talk, and many of them, when they'd ask them, well, where do you live? And they would say, oh, Atlanta and Albany, but they lived right here. And I said, why are you saying that? I was proud of my family roots and where my people came from. And I said, you should never be ashamed because you see, there's greatness everywhere, not just in big cities. There's greatness in little rural areas, just like Cairo and Beachton out here in South Georgia. And God blesses all of us to be great because why? He created us and He was great and still is. Let's go to the next one. So, we're going to talk about the life and legacy of someone who nobody would have ever dreamed with the life that he had growing up with his parents, his father leaving the family, deserting the family, and leaving his mother with he and his four other siblings. This is a picture of his mother, Mally, cousin Mally, and his four other siblings. That's Edgar and Frank, Mac, and Willie Mae. And Mac was the second, he was the second to the youngest, the knee baby, they call it. And he and Jackie were just outstanding when it came to sports. And a lot of people don't know it. But Uncle Mac, he also became my uncle because he ended up marrying my mother's sister also, and as well as my cousin. But he ended up being in the Berlin Olympics um, way back in 1936. And he was going up against Jesse Owens, which most people know that name, Jesse Owens, the fastest runner in the world. But what people don't know is the one who was beating him through all the preliminaries while they were training in Germany was Matthew Mac Robinson. We call him Uncle Mac. And the only reason why Jesse beat him is because he only beat him by a few milliseconds. We're not talking about a long range, just a few milliseconds. This is because he wore out his shoes. And back then, they didn't have sponsors to buy you new equipment and new shoes and uniforms and things of that sort. So he had to do the best he could with what he had. And he only beat him, Jesse Owens only beat my Uncle Mac by milliseconds. Milliseconds. Can you imagine? But he came in second place and won the silver medal. And after that, the rest is history. But he made a difference as well. Next slide. Here is Jackie here and his bride, Rachel, who they were married for many years. But what you don't know is when the time came for someone to be the first African American to break the color barrier in Major League Baseball, Branch Rickey, who was the president of the Brooklyn Dodgers in New York, told his scouts, he said, I want you to find me a good black player who is really good at playing with the major league, not the major league, but the Negro League teams, because they had Negro League teams as well. And Jackie's was with the Kansas City Monarchs that he played with. And so they went out and checked out several of the different Negro leagues and visited Kansas City and saw Jackie play. And they were pretty impressed with his demeanor, the way he carried himself. Even though there were one or two others that played almost better than he, pretty much better than he did, but they liked him and they chose him. So they told Branch Rickey when they got back to New York, we have someone I think that's going to make a good one. And we'd like for him to come and be the first African American to break the color barrier in Major League Baseball. So they contacted Jackie. And at that time, he and Rachel had not married yet. They were still dating because, you see, after he uh, finished high school, he went on to college, but he only was able to go for 2 years because his mom didn't have the finances, raising all five of them by herself. And so he decided to go into the Army. And that's what he did. And guess what? He met Joe Louis, the famous boxer, who was also in the same Army in Texas. And Joe Louis became the first lieutenant there, first black lieutenant. And he helped Jackie to become the second black lieutenant. So while they were in the Army, they knew the blacks that were there and they knew them. They were all very close friends and their spouses and all, even though Jackie wasn't married. But he happened to be on one of the Army buses and they were just going from one place to another, shopping and stuff. And he met one of his buddy's wife that he already knew and was just sitting next to her talking, having a conversation. And guess what happened? The driver of the bus said, I need you to get to the back of the bus. You're not supposed to sit there. He was sitting in the middle near the front. He said, I need you to go to the back of the bus. Blacks are not able to sit there because she was so fair skinned. The bus driver thought she was white, but she wasn't. She was black. But anyway, he didn't get up and he didn't move. So guess what? They court martialed him and gave him a dishonorable discharge. He took it to court, and guess what? With he and Joe Louis, he won the case and they gave him an honorable discharge. And at that time, he decided he would just leave the Army. He was finished with the Army. And he joined the Negro Leagues, the baseball teams. And he said, this is what I want to do. And that's exactly what he did. So when he joined the Negro Leagues, that's when Branch Rickey Scout found out who he was and invited him to be possibly the first in New York. And they sent him on a train because back then they couldn't fly. Blacks couldn't fly. They would just take the train or the bus. So he went and met with Branch Rickey in New York. Branch Rickey said, Jackie, there's only one thing I need for you to do before we have you be that first person and break that color barrier in baseball and Major League. You're going to have to be married because you're going to go through some hell. You're going to go through a lot of racism and you're going to need that support at home. And you're going to need to be married. And he was already dating Rachel, who was in nursing school to become an RN at UCLA. And by the way, when Jackie was at UCLA, he was the first black or white to four-letter in baseball, basketball, football, and track. And you would have thought maybe they would have given him a scholarship so he could continue on, but they didn't do that back in those days. So anyway, in 1946, he and Rachel got married. And after that, on April the 15th, is when he broke that color barrier in Major League Baseball. And the rest is history of what he did. But it was not easy. And had he had not had Rachel with him, he would not have been able to go through the things that he went through. Next slide, please. And this is Branch Rickey, the president of the Brooklyn Dodgers, and talking to Jackie as he's signing his contract to play Major League Baseball with the Brooklyn Dodgers. And actually, Mr. Rickey wanted to break the color barrier much sooner, but the commissioner of baseball was against it. No, we don't need to integrate baseball. But God has a plan for everything. And guess what happened? That commissioner died. And when he died, that was the opportune time to make a difference. And that's exactly what Branch Rickey did. And he did make a difference, a big difference. Next slide. And here they are with their family. Here we have Rachel and Jackie with their three children. They had one daughter, Sharon, and then the two boys, Jackie Jr. and David, the three kids. Next one. And Jackie did so well in playing baseball. He was the most valuable. He became the most valuable player, the first to become the most valuable player. He did so good in playing baseball that they won championships, many of them because of him being on the team that they had not won before. And he made a difference. He really made a difference in baseball, and showed it to the country that just give us a chance, give us the opportunity, and we'll show you what we can do. And as a result, that helped open more doors for more African Americans to play on various other teams. He never gave up. And this was in 1947 when he broke that color barrier, April the 15th. Next slide. Now, not only did he become very active and did very well with baseball, but Jackie, as I mentioned before, was a pioneer for human dignity and a champion for civil rights. And in the 50s, he only played baseball for 10 years from 1947 to 1957. And the reason was Jackie was developing diabetes. And he was partially blind when he did retire in 1957. And not only that, he said, I may have diabetes and I may be partially blind, but my life is still not over yet because there are some other things I have to accomplish and do. And as I mentioned before, he became the vice president of Chock-full Nuts, which is a major company there that they had lunch counters and things for the people to eat at and drink coffee. And he was over hiring the people. So you know what he did? He made sure he hired a lot of African Americans and opened those doors of opportunity. He also started a construction company to help build homes, low income homes for these blacks to have nice homes to live in. And he made sure he got himself involved where there were opportunities to open more doors to provide better jobs for African Americans by getting involved with these various companies. The first vice president, he even helped start the Freedom National Bank in New York City to have these homes available where they can get loans from the bank and made it available. It didn't last very long because there were whites who didn't want to see that happen in New York, but he did as long as he could. But he also fought for the civil rights movement with Dr. King. He and Dr. King were very, very close and worked together in a lot of things. And he helped raise a lot of money for the civil rights movement, both he and Rachel. Next slide. Here they are enjoying many of the activities they did enjoy, being with others, and just making life the best that it can be. Next slide. Here he is with his partners and Pee Wee Herman and those with the Brooklyn Dodgers. And Pee Wee Herman, when Jackie first joined the Dodgers, many of the players didn't even want to have anything to do with him. They wouldn't even say hi or say nothing. But Pee Wee Herman, he got out on that field and he went to Jackie and gave him a big hug and said, "We gonna do this. We gonna make this happen." Pee Wee Herman, he was Jewish, but he was one of the captains on that team. And he said, they're not going to get away with this. We're going to make this happen. You're going to stay on this team. Next. Here he is with many of the players. And after Pee Wee Herman did what he did, guess what? All the players said, we're in. We're all in. Jackie is one of us now. Next slide. He loved He loved, he loved more than anything in baseball, stealing bases. Now here he is at second base. He played mostly second base. And he did good at that, but he liked stealing bases when it was time for him to hit that ball and run. I didn't get to see him play because you see, I wasn't even born until after he retired. He retired in 1957. That was the year that I was born. But I heard stories from family members. My parents had gone to see him play a few times in New York. Next slide. This is just another picture of him with the Dodgers. Next slide. Okay, next slide. And who did I mention before who was very, very talented as well? His brother Mac. Matthew Mac Robinson, Uncle Mac. That's him. That's Jackie's brother, who was just a few years older than him. He was the knee baby of the family. And here he is in Berlin, and the Berlin Olympics in Germany, getting ready to participate in the actual Olympics in track and running and splinting with um, uh, Jesse Owens, who beat him by just a few milliseconds, just a few milliseconds. And you would think that even though he won the silver medal, that he still would have been, appreciated and people would have really welcomed him when he came back to the United States and he came back on a train. And I remember hearing the family say when he got off the train, guess who all was there to meet him? His wife, his children, and that's it. You would have thought there would have been a big crowd, but that's the way it was back then. But that didn't stop them. They still had that drive to be the best, to do the best. And he did a good job. He would have won had he had better shoes, but that's what delayed those few milliseconds from winning in the Berlin Olympics. Next slide. And this is Uncle Mac with Aunt Delano, my mother's sister. Picture of them in Pasadena, which is where they lived and raised their children. Pasadena, California. Next slide. And by the way, that's where Jackie and all of his siblings and all grew up. And what you all I didn't mention, but when Jackie was born, he was born in January the 31st, 1919. He was the youngest of the five children. And his father deserted the family when he was about 4 months old. And guess what? Mally had two brothers that lived in Pasadena, California, and they were in landscaping. They had a good job. And they called her up and they said, Sis, if you want to see what heaven is like, we're going to save up enough money to bring you and the kids here on a midnight train in Georgia to Pasadena. And that's exactly what they did. By that time, Jackie was about 14 months old. And when they got to Pasadena, they got a home. They helped them get a home. Of course, it wasn't what they wanted, but they didn't have all that money, so they did the best they could and went on to school and finished school, the kids, and she got a better job, and the rest is history there as they grew up. But that's what happened. His father deserted the family, and believe it or not, I was shocked. I said, well, why would he desert the family knowing you have this little baby? He left the family for another woman, believe it or not. And guess what? She was married. And I was shocked. I'm like, what? I didn't know they did things like this back in 1919. I didn't think that happened, but it did. But she had sense enough to go back to her husband. But unfortunately, he did not. He stayed in Florida, somewhere in Florida, and never returned. And Jackie never saw his father until his father died. And Jackie was in the military in the 1945, 46, and that's when he went to the funeral. That was the first time he saw his father. He had never seen him before. So, you may think bad things happen to people sometimes, but understand God has a plan for things, because had Jackie stayed in Georgia, in rural South Georgia, he may not have been the first to break that color barrier in Major League Baseball in New York, because he was found playing with the Kansas City Monarchs, because there were no Negro leagues down here, none at all. So you see, I tell people sometimes when you say bad things happen to good people, God has a plan. It's happening for a reason. So I tell people, don't ever feel bad. God knows what's going on. Just trust in Him, because better outcomes will happen. And you'll see it if you just stay patient and believe and move forward. Okay, next slide. Oh, that's me. I was just talking about Jackie Robinson. That was about I think about a year ago. They wanted me to come to Thomasville and talk about Jackie Robinson and breaking the color barrier. That was around his anniversary of breaking the color barrier with news reporters with WCTV. Next slide. And here is his darling wife, Rachel. Um, even though Jackie retired at 57, and he didn't live too much longer. He lived to be, about 53, I believe, years old. He died in um, in Connecticut, and um, and that was October 24th, 1972. And mainly because of the diabetes and high blood pressure and some heart problems. And, so that's what caused his early death. But thank God, his wife, Rachel, made sure to continue his legacy, to keep his legacy alive, and to never let anyone forget what he did and the sacrifices he made for his people so that he can open doors for others. That's why he did what he did, and he went through with what he went through. And she did as well. But they did so much to help our people. So this is Rachel and Jackie Bear, and then there's some other pictures with some other stars that she was with. But she is a remarkable woman. I saw them about a couple of years ago in New York when I was at a medical meeting and visited the home of Rachel and Sharon, and the son, David. He was there. Unfortunately, Jackie Jr. had died in his 20s from an automobile accident. So it was just the three of them. But her son, David, he lives in Tanzania. He has 10 children, and he has a coffee import farm, and does a lot of business that way over the years, and is doing very well. And his children, all of them, come to the United States and they get their education in college and things of that so forth. But Rachel started a scholarship fund in Jackie's name. She has the Jackie Robinson Foundation, and there's now a Jackie Robinson Museum. So when you go to New York, New York, New York, definitely make sure you look up the Jackie Robinson Foundation and the museum, and also know that they have given thousands of scholarships to African American students that are doing so well and have done very well and succeeded in graduating with honors, many of them. And it helps to cover much of their expenses during the 4 years of college. And so she has really made a difference from all the contributions she's been given from many people over the years in supporting her work and what she's doing. And I've invited her here to Cairo area, and it was the first time she had been down here since they married. And she was just glad to be able to come down and see where Jackie's humble beginnings started, right down here in rural South Georgia. And now, here in Cairo, we have the Jackie Robinson Boys and Girls Club, which when Rachel was called, because she owns the rights to his name, and when they wanted to name the organization the Jackie Robinson Boys and Girls Club instead of the Grady County Boys and Girls Club, they had to call her to get that approved. Well, before she would approve it, guess who she called? She called me, and I said, "Well, what's going on?" She said, "Well, I need to know from you. What do you think about this? Because you're down there, and I'm going to go on what you say." And I said, please give them the name because I want those kids to be proud of where they come from and to know that greatness comes from little towns. And just like Jackie was great, they're great too. And they could do great things as they get older if they just apply themselves. And that's exactly what she did. She gave them the okay to call it. And it's the only Boys and Girls Club in the entire nation that's named after Jackie. Okay, next one. And here is David and Sharon um, standing behind Rachel is Sharon and David, the son. Um, she's 103 now. She'll be 104 this year in July. Okay, so God has blessed her. She's really doing well. Next slide. And here they are again with Sharon and David. Okay, go ahead. Next slide. And of course, April the 15th is a big day all over the country. And one of the things Jackie has always said throughout his life that life is not important except for the impact it has on other lives. And he wants us to understand that what have we done? What impact have we made on other lives, especially our youth? And that's who I'm mainly concerned about. I want to see our youth do exceedingly well, exceptionally well, be successful, and never be afraid or feel like they're not good enough because they are. And know that it can happen to them, just like it happened to Jackie, who came from his humble beginnings right here in rural South Georgia. So they got to be proud of where they come from. And I tell them that all the time. So don't be ashamed of where you come from. I don't care how little the town is. There's great people in all places. So do what you need to do, and God will bless you to be successful in life. Okay? And I thank God, when I started the organization of the Jackie Robinson Cairo Memorial Institute, I came back here in rural South Georgia in 1996 after I got my medical degree as a family physician. And I said, I'm going back to my family roots where my people came from. And I'm going to open up a practice in Cairo. And that's exactly what I did. And I was the first female, black or white, to set up a private practice there in 1996. And when I got to Cairo and I had some children, and pediatric patients, I had them from birth to old age. But when the kids would come in, I would always ask them, I said, well, tell me, um, do you know who Jackie Robinson is? Have you ever heard of Jackie Robinson? No. None of them knew who Jackie Robinson. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'm like, the greatness of this man and all that he has done in this country, and they don't even know who he is. Well, Lord, I see why you brought me back here. You have more for me to do than just practice medicine and be a doctor. You want me to do some other things, and I'm ready to do it because I wanted to make sure that his legacy is well known throughout this world, not just down here, but throughout the world. And so the first thing I did was I went to a couple of people and I said, well, tell me, I want to get this highway renamed that I live on, which is Highway 93. And I said, I want to call it, I want to name it. I didn't tell them who, I just said, I just want to rename it. And so they gave me the person to speak with over the Department of Transportation in Atlanta. And that's who I called. And I told him what I wanted to do. I said, I want to name it after my late cousin, Jackie Robinson. And he knew who I was talking about. He said, oh, okay. I said, you tell me what I need to do and I'll, just send me whatever paperwork I need. If he said, no, just that's okay. Let us meet. I'll have a meeting and we'll discuss it and then get back with you. And so he called me within a week later, and said, well, Dr. Walden, what do you want to call it? I said, I want to call it the Jackie Robinson Memorial Parkway. And he said, well, it's just a two-lane highway. And I said, I don't care. I want it to be called a parkway. He said, well, I'm going to grant you that because one day it will be four lane. Now, that was in 1996. Okay. This is 2026 and it's still two lane. So I don't know where that's going to happen, but I thank God that he granted my request. And so I had the highway renamed. I talked to the mayor. It was Mayor Wells at that time and the commissioners. And I said, I'd love if we could put some signs up to say this is the birthplace of Jackie Robinson, because I want the world to know this is where he came from. And they were very kind and granted that. And so when I had the highway renamed, I had the governor, um, Zell Miller. He came down. He was my keynote speaker. I said, if this is the governor, I want him to be the speaker for this highway renaming. And I had a lot of other politicians, Sanford Bishop and many others that came. And we had it right alongside the road and had a big tent set up and had the Cairo High School band play. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. And then after that, I had several of the politicians. Max Cleland came, and he said, and I said, I want to take you all out to see where Jackie was, let you know where he was born. And I showed him, and I said, I just want you to know that I want to see what we can do out here too, to really let people know this is where he came from. And believe it or not, the very person that went out there along with the governor with me helped to get the Georgia State Historical Marker erected. And I wrote the script and they edited it because it was pretty long, but it's a bronze marker that you will see out there on Hatley Ferry Road and it's up. And then someone tried to demolish it, destroy it 2 years later. And guess what? Major League Baseball gave several $1,000s to the Georgia Historical Society. And not only did they put up one, they put up one where he was born, and they put up one downtown by the library, outside by the road, so people will see that this is where he was born. And I said that could have not been better. And I thank God for that. I established the Jackie Robinson Carroll Memorial Institute, the Youth Leadership Institute. Also, we had essay contests for the young people in the ninth grade to say, how has the impact of Jackie Robinson had an impact in your life? And I would give little cash scholarships to the kids. And so if they wanted to write that essay, they had to make sure they knew about it. So that made them read more about Jackie Robinson's life. And I really love that. And they appreciated it. And so the legacy will continue. Our young people are doing good in school. The majority of them are doing so much better. The Jackie Robinson Boys and Girls Club is doing remarkably well. And also, just to mention, 2 years after I started the Jackie Robinson Carroll Moore Institute, because you have to understand, nothing had ever been done in the state of Georgia to honor Jackie until I came here in 1996. And so after the highway was renamed, and I got a call from the Georgia Sports Hall of Fame, and they said, "Well, we would like for you to come to the opening game of the Atlanta Braves because we want to present something to you." I said, "Okay," and so they told me the date and time and when it was, and I said, "Well, what do you mean you want to present something to me? What is it you want to present?" And they said, "Well, I'm letting you know that we have inducted your cousin, the late Jackie Robinson, posthumously into the Baseball Hall of Fame. in Georgia. And like I said, nothing had ever been done until I started this. And so I went to the game. My mom went with me and stepped out on the field, and they presented me with the plaque. We took pictures, and I, to this day, still have it. And but I thank God, that I did not give up because I knew I had to do something, and wasn't sure, but it was God's doing. Like I said, a lot of times when we don't know what we're going to come into or run into or what's going to happen, you just stay focused on God and keep that faith and pray. And He'll tell you what's going to happen. And little by little, each day, I would have something a little voice would say, "You, this is what's going to happen, and I need you to do this, that is this, that, and the other," and I would do it. And so, he was inducted into the Georgia Sports Hall of Fame, and that was in 1997, 98. And so he was inducted into the National Sports Hall of Fame up there in New York way back in the 60s. So this is, I'm just letting you know, this is why we have to stand up and do what's right when we see things that haven't been done that need to be done. Because now he is recognized in Georgia. He was recognized in New York way back in the 60s, and it took that long for someone to just do something to honor him, and then others followed along as well. So I thank God for that he has been recognized. And so I'm telling you this to say don't ever doubt the dreams that you have in wanting to do things in life to make it better or to celebrate the life of someone who made a difference for so many others, because that's what Jackie did. He loved society, he loved the people. He wanted to open more doors for more African Americans to have opportunities because he thanked God for the opportunities God opened to him. Okay, next slide. And as I mentioned before, Rachel, she was a woman who never, never, ever gave up on making sure that Jackie's legacy continues. And she did everything she could, the museum, the foundation, and helping to young people to be the best that they can be and to achieve and let them know that nothing is impossible with God and there are people who will help them. And she was one of them. Next slide. And here we are, the birthplace of Jackie Robinson. As I mentioned, I asked about getting signs put up, and here it is at the where I had the highway renamed, and the Congressman Sanford Bishop, and standing next to him is Mr. Olin Falk, who actually is a distant cousin of mine, but he was very active in politics, and several other people. But these were the signs that were done, and they were later put up, letting people know this is where his humble beginnings started, right here in Cairo, Georgia. Next. And this is at a banquet that we had also honoring Jackie. And this was a pro baseball player, and I'm so sorry I can't remember the name right offhand, but he was there, and Zell Miller, and this was a picture that was sent to me of the Dodgers with Jackie. Um, and after he was inducted into the Sports Hall of Fame there in New York City from many years ago. Next slide. And there it is, the Parkway's renamed. We were so proud to see that sign, and it's just a blessing. It's a blessing. He will never be forgotten. Next slide. And this is the marker that I wanted to see put up, and the script and all that I pretty much wrote, but it was so long, so they had to edit it to shorten it up some. But this is at the birthplace where Jackie was born. It's a bronze marker, and then there's one just like it downtown on Broad Street in Cairo, right over there by the library. Next slide. And there it is, the home where the other family members had lived. They had a house, but no one lived in it for many years. And back in the day, a lot of people would burn off, and they still do to this day, burn off the land. And somehow the people, I think, next to it were burning off, and it got a hole on the other side and burned the house or whatever was left of the house. And the only thing that is standing is the chimney. Next. And these are some of our students, our scholar students that participated in the Youth Leadership Institute at some of the banquet and programs we had. And I had the Honorable Judge Lewis Sands, who's standing in the middle. He was the first African American judge appointed in Albany, Georgia. And he's a very dear friend. And his wife, many of you may know, is Carla Heath Sands, who's a news anchor for the Albany WALB television station, news station. And these are many of the students that were participating. Next. And here we are with unveiling of the bronze statue. And there you see Max Cleland. As I mentioned before, he was very instrumental in helping to get this erected and paid for. Next. That just tells you some of the things that were said about Jackie Robinson and attending UCLA, the United States Army, playing with the international leagues, the Brooklyn Dodgers, and breaking the color barrier. And he served as a special assistant to Governor Nelson Rockefeller as well. As I mentioned, he established the modern Freedom Bank, National Bank, to help provide housing for people to have better homes. Um, so he really made a difference. He did so much to help so many people. Next. And then this is the Sports Hall of Fame plaque that was presented to me when Jackie was inducted here in the state of Georgia. Next. And here we have Stedman Graham, who was Oprah Winfrey's special mate. I wanted Oprah to come, but she wasn't able to. So I said, okay, well, then I would like to see if Stedman Graham can come. And he obliged and came and he spoke. He was wonderful. He was just wonderful. This was back many years ago in about, I think, it might have been 2000, if not 1999, 2000. Yeah, he did a wonderful job. And we had a great turnout. This was at Cairo High School. Next slide. And here we are with Jackie once again with Dr. King. As I mentioned before, they were very, very close friends, and Jackie did a lot in helping to raise money. What they would do is he and Rachel would have jazz concerts out on their lawn in Sanford, Connecticut, which is where Sanford, Connecticut, where they lived, and several acres of land. And they would have many of the jazz musicians would come, Dizzy Gillespie, Cannonball Adderley, um, you name it. It was many of them would come out and perform, and people would bring their picnic baskets and blankets, and there would be other foods that they could get if there while they were there if they wanted. But Jackie raised all this money because what was happening in the civil rights movement, the younger people, especially the ones in college, were the ones that were demonstrating, especially, when you couldn't go into a store or sit at a lunch counter. Blacks were prohibited back in the 60s in these small towns in Albany and other places, and they would arrest them and take them to jail. The parents couldn't do much of the protesting because they had to work and take care of their families, and the other little kids had to go to school. So they let the ones that were in college or college age be the ones to demonstrate. But what Jackie would do with the money that he raised at his home outside during the summer, he would take that money, and I have a picture where it was given to me by someone who lived in the area, where he would bring thousands of dollars, and he had a suitcase full of money to bail all of those college kids that attended Albany State University in Albany, Georgia, out of jail. And he really made a difference. He did it for not just Albany, but other areas as well, but definitely Albany because that was part of where he came from, Georgia. Okay. But he and Dr. King were very close, and he did all he could to make a difference in the civil rights movement. Next. And here we have Dr. King and Jackie and Rachel and Roy Wilkins. He was with the NAACP. I think he was secretary of the National NAACP. They were all during one of the demonstrations. And I think that might have been at their home where they were having a jazz concert also during that time. They would have thousands of people that would show up to give funding to help with the movement. Yes, next slide. And there's me and Rachel. She had come down, and I gave her a special banquet to welcome her to Georgia, to Cairo, Georgia, since this was her first time seeing where the humble beginnings of her husband came from, Jackie. And she was so happy to be able to come and see for herself. And so that's just a picture of us taken at the banquet in Cairo. Next. And here's another one during another big affair, I believe it was in New York, and she was speaking, and we got a chance to talk and be together at that time as well. Okay, once you can change it again. So the number 42 has been officially retired for all Major League Baseball teams. There is no more a number 42. Um, and that's the first time that's happened with any baseball player, period, in this nation. Um, Jackie was like the first player, black or white, to be honored by the minting of a U.S. Gold and silver coin endorsed by President Bill Clinton. As I mentioned before, there's scholarships with the Jackie Robinson Foundation and the museum and honoring Jackie. Jackie is the only person who has been honored with a U.S. postage stamp um, who has been affiliated with baseball because this was done during the 50th anniversary in becoming the first African American to break the color barrier in baseball. And he's just done so much, so much. For the Dodgers, they went to the World Series 6 times, winning in 1955. And Jackie was not just a phenomenal athlete, but a leader in the struggle for the civil rights as a politician, and he was a businessman as well. He never gave up because he was determined he was going to make a difference, and he did make a difference. He was Rookie of the Year in 1947. He won the Most Valuable Player award as well. He's just phenomenal. He's done so much. Next slide. And at 20 years old, he broke that color barrier. And as I mentioned before, the National Baseball Hall of Fame in 1962, civil rights activist. He served with the NAACP with Dr. King, the first Rookie of the Year in 1947, now called the Jackie Robinson Award. He worked closely with Dr. King, and he made his success possible. He would not have been able to do what he did had it not been with Dr. King. Jackie will tell you never say never because as long as there's a God, He's going to make a way. And He will open doors for us if we allow Him to. And He will make things possible. So don't ever think that because you're African American or a certain race, or because you may not be as wealthy as others or have as much as others, that you can't do it. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And guess what? You will if you just put your faith in God and He'll make it possible. So don't ever give up. Don't ever give in. And don't ever give out because nothing is impossible with God. Next slide. Thank you. And I'll take any questions anyone has.
I don't have a question, but I just want to say you did an outstanding job, Leonard. I just don't know how you packed all that, in, but you did so.
Well, you have to understand, I've been talking about Jackie for years, since 1996. And I didn't get to meet him because, as I mentioned, when he finished playing baseball, he retired in 1957. And I was just born in 1957, but I learned a lot from family, my mom and dad, and Aunt Delano and Uncle Mac and the cousins. Um, that's why it's always good to stay close to your family members because you learn so much from them, hearing the stories that they tell over the years. And that's what's a blessing about it all. And so I just thank God for people like you as well, having the vision to start your museum to keep the memories alive of so many people who have made a difference in this world, right there out of Thomasville. So God bless you, Uncle Jack, for all that you've done as well. And it's just so much that we can do, still do. And we should never ever, get discouraged because that's what some people want us to do is get discouraged, when things don't happen the way we want. Just know that there are other ways of getting things done. It may not be the way you do it, but maybe God has a better way. So give him a chance to show you or tell you or send someone to tell you. Because sometimes you learn through others, you know, and don't think you know it all, you know. So we just have to stay humble and prayerful and do what we need to do. And God will take care of the rest. That's all I can say. Because I know I've been there. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for God as a physician. And I tell that to my young mentees all the time who want to go into various fields, whether it's medicine or going into some other field, that they want to do, that they have to just stay connected with God. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Not everybody at one time.
I just
All
want to say
right.
thank you for championing Jackie's legacy and keeping his name alive. I've kind of kept up with it over the years, with the Boys and Girls Club and several
Good.
things. And I came down there and visited Jack a few times with his museum. I know he has some things
Okay.
with his brother in his museum,
Mm,
which I didn't realize
mm-hmm.
he was such a great athlete as well. A lot of people don't know that.
Yes. Oh
So that
no,
was
they don't. They
yeah, that
don't.
was some good information. And
Oh yeah. Yeah, Uncle Mac he was phenomenal.
yeah,
Phenomenal man. He didn't get all the accolades he should have gotten,
I know. And
because of the
that was
color of his
interesting because you
skin.
said when they the same when Jesse Owens had returned back home, it was like with no fanfare. He pretty
Hmm.
much had to go find a regular job like everybody else did.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
just something to think about, just how
Yeah. That's
that must
right.
have made him feel.
Yeah.
But let's thank you and Jack as well for having this presentation.
Oh, you're so
So
welcome.
great. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. I'm glad you did.
Hey,
And
this
let's just
this
make a difference for our young people and inspire them because they're our next generation, that we have to make sure that they do what they need to do. Because so many of them, nowadays, I'm seeing so many young people are not getting the upbringing that many of us had when we were growing up, with our parents, having both parents there in the household, So we got to try to mentor them and help them along to be the best that they can be and to know that they can make a difference as well.
okay. This is Bill Baker from Tallahassee. I just wanted to make note that uh, this was a great presentation, but there was a
Thank you.
movie called 42 with
Yes,
Chadman Boseman,
right.
and he was a great actor. He died young also. Um, and he it was based when he was doing his training mostly down in Daytona
Okay.
Beach, Florida. So
Oh, wow.
no,
Okay.
I
Well, good to,
mean the movie is was
yeah.
dealt with a lot of his early career in
Okay.
Daytona Beach training camp. So
Okay. Is
just
this
one.
Pam Baker's husband?
Yes, it is.
Oh, wonderful. I thought so. Good to hear from you.
Well, great for
Yes.
inviting me to
Oh,
listen to
sure,
your
sure.
presentation.
Yeah, and anybody that wanted to see it and didn't get a chance, because I know there's graduations going on now in the colleges and some other things today. So it will be, I was informed by my Uncle Jack and Daniel Pittman, the executive director, that it is recorded, and so it will be available if anybody wants to see it or hear it. So just let us know. All right.
All right. Any more questions?
Hmm.
All right. Well, if there's no more
Okay.
questions, I just want to say again, Dr. Walden, thank you so much for
Oh,
agreeing
you're so
to
welcome.
be our speaker. You did an outstanding job, like always, and so we just appreciate you, and it's always good to see you, and just thank you again, and I hope
You're
everyone has a
welcome.
great night.
Thank you, and you all too. Stay blessed.
Thank
All right.
you.
Bye
Good
bye.
night.
Well,